Hey, this is Stephanie.
And I'm Nina.
And you're listening to Live by the Spirit podcast.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Wow, it's like I can hear you so much better now.
We had a restart. I had technical problems.
She didn't have technical problems. She was not putting the mic up to her mouth. It was like under her chin.
I have a loud voice. I thought it was projecting.
It was not projecting.
Oh.
But anyways, welcome back.
We're back.
We are. And yeah. It's so weird. Sometimes nothing comes to us at the beginning to talk about other than our topic.
Yeah.
Man, I guess we're going to jump right in.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if we've talked about this yet. I feel like we've mentioned it. I don't know if we've gone really into it at all. But right now is Lent. And so corporately, our church is doing a 40-day fast leading up to Easter Sunday or Resurrection Sunday. And we all are fasting different things. Some of us are fasting similar things. Some of us are fasting completely different things. We've got a wide range of like food, drinks, social media, etc. A bunch of people, our whole body fasting something. And in that process, really seeking the Lord on different areas of our lives and different things. And yeah, so we were going to talk about, what the Lord's been teaching us over the last, today's day 25. So, when I'm recording this, it's day 25. When this comes out, I don't know what day it'll be.
It'll be someday in the fast.
28. It'll be still in the fast, but yeah.
Yeah.
So we were going to talk a little bit about what the Lord has been teaching us over the last 25 days.
Man, can't believe it's already been 25 days. I blinked.
What?
Yeah.
Bro, this has been the longest 25 days of my life.
Oh. I feel like it's been going by pretty fast, at least for me.
Wow.
I feel like I've said this a few times. I feel like last year's fast, or like the corporate fast for me, felt like such a big thing just because of a lot of things going on in my life. I just had a lot that I wanted to give up and a lot of things that I was just working through with God, and just also corporately we were going through some things. And this time around, while I do see some people, feeling the same way, I think every fast is going to be different. I've been so content of where I have been recently with God that it's just, I don't think it's been, I hate saying it's not a big deal. It's definitely a big deal. But like, I feel like last year it was just like, I was like crawling for it, if that makes any sense. And this year it's just like, I'm flowing with it. Does that make sense? Oh no.
That's fine. Just random things popping up at my computer.
It didn't. It stopped recording.
Yeah, it is. It's
recording. It's still recording? Oh, yeah. We're recording. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry. My computer's tweaking out, I guess. I feel like last year it went by really fast for me, and this year it's the opposite. I also feel like this year I wanted to make my flesh hurt, if that makes any sense to any of you guys out there.
Yeah.
Fasts are not supposed to be enjoyable. They are not supposed to be something that pleases your flesh. It's, putting your flesh down in, less of you and more of Christ. And so, like Steph said, it's going to be different for everybody depending on where the Lord is calling you to fast, what he's calling you to fast. It's going to look different. And also it's going to feel different. Even if you fast the same thing this year as you did last year, you're going to get something new out of it each and every time. And so it's just been interesting this time around for me specifically. I feel like it has been a lot harder this year, which is a good thing. It means I'm really putting my flesh down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what are you fasting, Stephanie?
Last year I fasted all streaming services, which if you know me, like that's a huge deal for me. That's where I seek a lot of entertainment. This year, however, and I think that's why last year was a little bit harder for me, just because that was something that, I'll have TV or something on while doing work or different things like that. So that was interesting. This year, I deleted TikTok completely off my phone. I've also doing a partial fast with most all social media. So like I don't do social media from 10 to 10, which I know like I sleep during 10 to 10. But it's nice, particularly in the morning, to wake up at like 7:30 and have like several hours in my day before I can interact with social media. I do social media for work, so it's kind of hard for me to completely cut it out cold turkey for certain things, but at least like taking away a good chunk of my time on it. That way I can be productive in other facets and not necessarily be aimlessly scrolling. And then also, I've told myself not to be looking at reels. So if a reel pops up, I just, because reels and TikToks are basically the same thing, short term video. So yeah, just been doing that. And yeah, and then also just been like making sure that I normally do my quiet time at night. I know everyone's a little different. I've always just been better about doing it at night, and I've been really enjoying doing it right before I go to bed, like one of the last things I do before I go to bed, and just being better principled about doing that rather than it's like, it's so late, like I want to just go to bed right now. It's like, okay, I'm going to read my chapter in my Bible right now and then go to bed. So yeah.
Nice. Since the beginning of the year, I've kind of been doing, it wasn't like, it's not like a fast, but it's like a healthy habit type of deal, challenge, if you will. So it's, drinking half your body weight in water, not eating after 8 p.m., reading a chapter of the Bible every day, praying for 15 minutes without technology, and walking, like exercising for at least 15 minutes every day. So I've been doing that since the beginning of the year, but which is, I've really enjoyed. Just healthy habits and things like that has been really helpful for me. But when it came time to fast, I knew I wanted to do social media again because I loved doing my social media fast last year. The only social media I have is Be Real, and I have it on a 5-minute timer, so I can't be on it more than 5 minutes every day. And that's just so I have like a picture every day of the year, because I like having that and looking back on it at the end of the year. And last minute, well, not this, one of them wasn't last minute. I decided that I was going to fast coffee, which is hard because I love coffee. That's been hard. But last minute, so the day before the fast started, I decided I was going to fast all streaming services, unless I am like at home watching something over dinner with Jonah, or Jonah and I watch a movie, or if I'm over at a friend's house and they put on a movie. Like, I am fasting myself sitting in front of a TV and just endlessly watching something, because it's distracting my time away from the Lord. So I've been doing that, and it's been very good. It has been hard because the first couple of days I was like, I'm bored. I want to watch a movie. Well, I'm bored. I want to watch a show. But it's like, okay, but we're supposed to be healthy habits, doing something instead of streaming. So get in the Word, pray, work out, do something. So it's been hard, but it's been good. So, Steph, what is maybe one thing that you feel like you've gotten out of it so far?
I look at last year, and like I said earlier, there was such a need and such a want to get closer with God. And this year, like I kind of said, rather than feeling like I'm like army crawling, not saying that I wasn't close with God, but it was like I had such a, I think we just all had this fire light up, or at least our friend group had this fire of just like really wanting to get closer with God. And I still have that, but it's just like I've been so content with it throughout the year that it's just like I still feel like everything I do in my daily life is more God driven. I feel like the things that God is pointing out to me right now is just that He is my provider right now, and just showing me those certain areas of how He's been providing for me and different things like that, and also just to be really intentional with my time in the Word. I think we can all I think reading if you're in the Word of God, it can be almost like a chore if you make it out to be. It's like, oh, I have to read my chapter in the Bible, rather than, oh, I get to read my chapter in the Bible. Yeah. And like last night in particular, I was really struggling with that. I'm in Habakkuk right now. My dad always says I pronounce that wrong. Habakkuk. But anyways, it was like I was reading this one chapter and I was like, I am falling asleep right now. It's like, this is talking about like war, and I'm like not interested. But just genuinely just, really reading through the chapter, dissecting it, see how God's moving in those moments. And it was really interesting because I heard God call me to read Micah. And then he randomly had me go back to Jonah and then Nahum. I'm not even reading the Bible in particular order. It's just I started Micah and I was like, oh, I should just finish the Old Testament while I'm here because most of those books are so small towards the end. But I had like this inkling to go read Jonah and then Nahum. And Jonah is literally talking about, Jonah going and, prophesying to, oh my gosh, it's leaving me. Nineveh, yeah, going and prophesying in Nineveh,
running away first.
Well, he ran away, but the whole purpose of God's calling was him to go and warn Nineveh that's like, you guys are against God, God's going to destroy you. But then they changed their ways, worshipped God, and God forgave them. Well, then Nahum is literally like 100 and something years later, they went back to their old ways, and God, like, it's a prophecy of God destroying them. And so it just really taught me, it's like, wow, we can go, it's one thing to ask God for forgiveness and truly mean it and start living a better life, but it doesn't mean anything if we go back into old habits. So I thought that was a kind of beautiful picture. But yeah, that's what kind of I've been learning. It's been like, for me, I feel like, because I mentioned this a while back, but God had me do a 10-day fast in October. And that to me felt very like God was teaching me so much during that. And I love being part of the corporate fast. But I think this year for me, it's just like being more content with God. Whereas I feel like God called you. Not saying that I didn't feel like called to fast, but it's like when I've heard in the past, God says like, it's time to fast and this is what you're fasting.
Yeah.
This year it was more so like, I don't necessarily hear him calling me to fast right now, but I'm going to give up certain things with my community and still focus on God and all that. And I think that's great. But you had, you heard God calling you to fast these things. So it's, very awesome. And I think all of us are getting stuff out of this fast, but I think particularly you've been getting a lot out of it because you heard the call.
Yeah, I will say last year I didn't necessarily feel called to fast anything specifically.
Isn't that crazy how it's different?
Yeah, it's like vice versa. Like last year you felt called to certain thing. I did not. And so last year I just decided to fast social media because I was like, this will be easy. It wasn't, but it proved to be easy after like 3 days.
It was hard when we were launching the podcast. I was like, all I needed to do was just to reshare stuff. I was like, can you give me your Instagram handle and I'll reshare it for you? And she's like, absolutely not.
It's just so funny that each year we come around to like our anniversary of our podcast. So like last year when we started, and this year we're coming up on our 1 year anniversary very soon, which is so exciting. But it's funny that I'm like fasting during that. Luckily this year our fast will be over before our 1 year anniversary.
I know.
So this is exciting. But this year specifically, we were in church and one of our associate pastors, Jason, he was giving a message and he had said something like, I don't know necessarily what his exact words, but what I got out of it was like, we need to remove the thing that is our biggest competition with God. So what is distracting you the most from the Lord right now? Remove it. And when he said that, I was like, wow. I literally watch movies and shows all the time. Like I had gotten into this habit right before the fast started, where every single day I would come home from work so exhausted and I didn't want to take a nap. So I would sit on my couch and watch 2 or 3 movies. And then it would be like 10 p.m. and it's time to go to bed. And it's like, wow, I haven't read my Bible today or worked out. I got to go do that real quick. So it just got into this really terrible habit and I hated it. And I was like, I just need to get out of it. So I last minute decided, hey, like, let me give up this, that, and then some to remove that bad habit. But then our friend Josiah, I don't really remember how the conversation had started, but we were in church and somebody said something about fasting something extreme. And I was like, if we're fasting extreme, I'll fast from coffee. And he was like, okay, do it. I said, yeah, I will. And I kind of said it as a joke at first, but then he goes, okay. And I was like, shoot, I just said that. That means I actually have to do it. So I texted Steph and Jude and I said, hey, y'all, please keep me accountable. I'm about to do this. And it has been very difficult. I didn't realize how bad my body was going to react to that. So the first week and a half, I like fell asleep on accident on the couch every day because my body just hit like a 4 p.m. crash and I would just pass out. It was rough because I was drinking like 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day. So we removed that.
You know what's funny? I can tell you the last time I had a cup of coffee. That Genesis's pop up like
I could
3 or 4 weeks ago.
I could also tell you the last time I had a coffee. It was the day before the fast started.
Yeah.
I went to Elegy and I got a honey cinnamon latte.
It's just funny because that literally is a choice. I just do not drink coffee.
Well, and lovely Genesis is doing going to do coffee on Easter, which is so exciting. So I don't have to worry about like going out before church, but it'll be exciting. I'm interested to see how my body's going to react, but through fasting all of that, you know, I was having a conversation with a friend about a week and a half ago, and the conversation essentially went, she was having a difficult time and was like, why am I suffering so much because of this, that, and the other? And I was thinking, well, my body's suffering a lot because I'm choosing to make it suffer, but why am I doing it? And so in that, it was just reminding her why we're suffering. And while I was reminding her, I was reminding myself. And so in it came a few different verses, but one verse that really popped out to me the most was 2 Timothy 4:7. It says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. So, you know, Paul saying that like through all that I've been through, which has been super cool because I've been reading through Acts and reading through all the crap that he's been going through. It's like through all of that, he's saying, I fought, I finished, and I continued to be faithful to the Lord. So it's like regardless of any circumstance, and we've talked about this before when talking about, you know, counting it all joy. It's like through all of this crap that we're putting ourselves down, we're putting off the old self. Through all of that, we need to fight, we need to finish, and we need to be faithful to the Lord. And if you look 2 chapters earlier in 2 Timothy 2:13, it says, if we are faithless, he remains faithful. And I think that's the one thing that has stuck out amongst all of the other things that the Lord's been teaching me. I feel like there's been a lot, but specifically teaching me like, even when we don't see it, even when we doubt it, even when we don't think anything is going on, he continues to remain faithful to us, and he's going to be faithful.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. And yeah, I feel like a lot of cool things in my life specifically. I think there's been a lot of revelation, a lot of different things that I feel called to go and do. I don't even know if we've talked about all the things. I don't think we have. There's some things I'm a brewing that I'll have to talk to you about. But I think it's been interesting just to see what he's dug out of me specifically to then call me to go do. Yeah. I don't know if you've had that at all.
Sorry, I just got requested to serve. Serve at church. Yeah, no, I've definitely, you know, just for me, I feel like that was a really big thing for me last year, was hearing more so God's calling on my life and what he has planned next for me. And so 2023 was the realization of that, and then also starting to practice it. And I think this year is stepping more into it and just continually, like, you know, God's gonna, if it's truly what God has for you, then he's gonna make a way for it. So just keep doing it. Don't, you know, stall if you can help it. So I think that's been a thing for me, is just to keep going. And I feel like I've had a lot of people be really prophetic over my voice, in a sense of my prophetic gift and also my ability to teach. I'm very similar to my dad. So it's just like acting more on that and finding opportunities that will allow me to practice that more, which there have been some opportunities. So that's been great. And it's been really cool to kind of see the year difference of the fast last year and not knowing what God was calling me to, and just kind of, I had just gone through like a really big, you know, spiritual walk of faith that God answered, and then was dealing with you know, a lot of more emotional stuff, I think, this time last year. And so even though I didn't realize it at the time, it's funny how a year later it's like, wow, I was going through all this emotional stuff and I didn't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
But so now it's, and I'm sure next year I'll be like, oh, I was going through this during the fast. But it's like, I feel very like, and I've mentioned this before, I feel like I've been in a very like quiet season of life, like a pretty like leveled out, like a lot of days look the same. You know, it's not like I haven't gone 2 steps down or 2 steps up. I feel very consistent, and consistency is boring to me, but I'd also rather be consistent than have taken 2 steps back or something tragic happen to me. So it's like finding joy in the quietness. I think it's also what I'm hearing God call, and just like also be able to, because God speaks to us in the quiet moments. So just like allowing him to speak to me during this time, and to remain encouraged in that as well.
I mean, a verse speaking right to that, 1 Thessalonians 4:11, it says that we should aspire to live quietly and to mind our own affairs. Walk properly in what the Lord's called you to, but live a quiet life. Don't, we're not here to be flashy,
Yeah.
But yeah, and doing like right now, living how the Lord is calling you to live right now, it's teaching you something.
Yeah. I think what I mean by quiet life is that like all my day, like my life has been pretty consistent. Yeah, it's just been mundane. It's like nothing like truly, like to me personally, I've had a lot of things exciting happen to friends and family around me, but like nothing like really exciting has happened to me in a while, which again is fine. I'm very content with my life. I'm in a very good spot. But yeah, I mean, there's still things that I'm praying for and hoping for, and, wondering why God is still having me wait on some things. But at the same time, it's like, I think he's teaching me a lot right now too. So just staying pretty positive in that mindset. Yeah. And also, I know one day I'm going to miss this season of life.
Yeah.
Particularly seeing my friends with children. I'm like, I know for a fact I'm going to miss this season of life one day. So just truly trying to embrace it.
Yeah. I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and I was talking about how like right now is the only time in our lives that we don't have to take another person into account. We don't have to, we live solely for the Lord, but like for us too. Like we're living by ourselves for the Lord. We're not living with a husband, with children for the Lord. And there's so much that we can do in this season. And it's like, we don't want to wish the time away. Like, yes, we wish for that other season to come, and we hope and we pray for it. But it's also knowing that right now the Lord has us where we are for a reason, and he's going to, reward us so greatly with those other things in the future.
Yeah. I mentioned this in one of the reels that I made a few weeks ago, but the Lord really told me, like, I think during the Christmas break, that that you don't know when your last day single is gonna be. Like, truly, like, we won't, who knows, we might have already met our husbands. We don't know when our true last day being single is before we enter into that next season of life. So embrace each day like it is your last day being just, what I mean by that is just you and God, and not you and God and someone else.
Yeah.
And that to me has kind of changed my mindset of how I go into prayer time, because I'm like, okay, right now it could be the last day. It's just you and me. So I want to give it everything I have. And I can't lie, some days are harder than others to do that. Like we had a big day yesterday with, something happened for 2 of our friends, which was awesome. But so when I got home, I was exhausted and all I wanted to do was go to sleep. But I was like, I haven't done my quiet time. I'm prioritizing this. I'm going to do it. And I remember just laying here in prayer and just being like, Lord, I'm sorry. I'm so exhausted. I'm like, sorry, I'm not giving this my all like I should. And I think I heard him chuckle in that moment. And it's just like, okay. Because I think another thing that the enemy's been really getting at me, it's like right now, is I'm not doing enough. And while, yes, I definitely think that there could be more that I could be doing in certain aspects of my life, it's whenever I'm in the middle of something, my phone starts to go off. I'm so sorry. Do not disturb. But yeah, I think he's just been at me that I, could be doing more and stuff. And it's just been like, okay, God, what do you need? Like, obviously God's going to want more of us no matter what, but it's like, and that was something I've been dealing with for a few months. And that's what the affirmations on my birthday was so powerful for. And we talked about it in the identity episode, because hearing so many people talk about how when they see me, they see God, and like how like I'm always like how I always bring it back to God. You know, that time I was dealing with, am I doing enough? I'm questioning God on a lot of things right now, but this is how my peers see me. So like still holding on to that, like, and knowing that, you know,
and also knowing that we have the right community around us, that we will like call you out in love.
Oh
if
yeah,
need be. And like we have that relationship with one another that I think is so precious too. It's like we live in a community where we can call each other out in love, but we encourage each other and we love each other first. And so knowing that we would call you out if there was something that you were doing, like,
well, I think it should also like be a testament that I don't remember the last time I did not read my Bible like a day.
Yeah,
and
right?
also my Bible is falling apart right now.
Dude.
I've had to tape the entire thing together.
It's actually funny.
It like went from zero. It went 0 to 100 real fast. So,
dude,
I think that's a physical example that I've been in the Word a lot recently.
Yeah,
which is good. Which is definitely good. But yeah, I think the most amazing thing about fasting, whether you're doing it private, like just you know, or doing it corporately, is that even if, you know, like right now for me, I didn't necessarily feel like I needed to be fasting anything. Like there's nothing crazy going on in my life right now that I'm like, oh, I need to fast for this. Not saying that there is for you. But I'm still learning, and it's still like choosing to wake up in the morning and give something up of my flesh for God. And if anything, this time of year also like always reminds me that's like I should be practicing this every single day. I shouldn't just be doing it this time of year and then immediately go back, because I did that with streaming services. It was like the second the fast was over, boom, all I was doing was watching streaming services. And
it's finding that balance too, because those things in moderation are okay, but it's like when we prioritize those things over the Lord, that's when it becomes a problem. So it's like finding that happy medium.
Well, what I will say is I feel like I'm better about what I watch.
Yeah, I think you have been.
Yeah,
I remember last year, right before the fast, you started watching The Vampire Diaries.
Oh, I love The Vampire Diaries.
And then
can't lie,
after the fast, you were like,
I can't get into it.
I don't know if I could watch this.
I remember trying to watch an episode or two, and mind you, y'all, I love The Vampire Diaries. I love Harry Potter. I just remember trying to watch an episode or two, and I'm like, why am I watching a show with witchcraft in it? And it was also like, I had watched an interview or something, and they were like talking about how like the spells, like they say in the show, are like derived from real spells. And I'm like, why am I literally watching real witchcraft right now?
Yeah.
Like I'm choosing to watch it. And so it's hard because I mean, Nina can attest to this. Like I love that show. I love Harry Potter, but it's also like, you know, I don't really necessarily want to, you know, I think the thing with like the Vampire Diaries is like I've been, like Nina can attest to this, I've been shows. Like I just watched all of One Tree Hill, and I started it in February, and it's been a month. I just finished all of it because I just have it on because I work from home. And so that's what was happening is I was just being consumed by it. And that was also around the time I got super, super sick. Do you remember that?
Yeah, because I was over
and
here,
I was still
all those snow days, and then you got
and I was
sick.
still unemployed. So all I was doing was watching The Vampire Diaries.
Yeah.
And so like
you finished that in like record time. It was kind of impressive.
I didn't finish it though.
No, but like what you were watching.
What I was watching was
you did it fast.
I did it fast. And so it's like I'm not gonna say that I'm perfect. I'm sure there'll be a time in my life where I watch a Harry Potter movie. I'm sure there's gonna be a time in my life I may watch an episode again. But it's like I don't want to be consumed by it, but also it's really interesting that, you know, I am less fascinated with watching that kind of stuff. I think we talked about a bit on our Halloween episodes. Like it got closer and closer to Halloween, and I was like, I just realized I didn't watch any. Like I didn't watch Hocus Pocus. I hadn't watched Halloween Town. Like I just wasn't really interested in watching any of that stuff this past year.
It's so crazy because I was having like last Saturday, a few of us went to church and we read through Galatians together, and Jude had shared this verse with me, which I thought was super crazy because I had never read it before. He was having a conversation with somebody, and like this verse got brought up, and it was like, for those nations, listen to those who practice witchcraft into diviners, but as for you, the Lord your God has not allowed you to do so. And it's like, wow,
Yep.
we don't realize how much of that we actually allow ourselves to watch. Like, even like you choosing to not watch stuff like that. And like so many of us have realized, like, we need to not even entertain that.
Yeah.
Because what is that allowing?
Yeah. Well, I can, and again, we've talked about this, kind of getting off the topic of the fast.
Sorry.
I'll be really, really fast. But like during COVID, I really enjoyed watching like obviously movies, like we're all stuck at home in the pandemic. But for me, I loved series. So I was going through like all the Hunger Games again, all this. But the one series I loved was Harry Potter, because there's 8 movies. So I just literally would watch all 8 movies, like, and just watch them on a loop. And I'm thinking back of all, and I went through a really hard like change of life during that point, because I was graduating college, like the job I had got, because of COVID, got canceled. Like there was just so much stuff happening. And what I was doing was, in a moment of hardship, was seeking something obviously that wasn't God, but particularly stuff that was really dark and heavy and had a lot of demonicness into it. Like, and I think back of who I was back then, and I'm not proud of it. And I went through a lot of dark stuff. And it's like I welcomed that into my atmosphere during such a difficult time. And so, yeah, I think it's really important to be, careful what you watch and all of that. So,
Yeah.
and again, I'm not perfect. And, also it's like, I know Jude would argue with this, but it's like we just watch all the Lord of the Rings, and there's
Well, no,
stuff
we were
like
even
that.
talking about that too. Hey,
Are
sorry,
you serious?
we're not going to talk about this on here. But that was brought up in the conversation of like, hey, like, should we even allow anything that has like a witch in it? And like, then we got on the topic of like Narnia, how there's the White Witch, but
she represents,
represents,
the enemy.
And like reading, Jonah has just read through the actual book. He's reading through the series, and like seeing how much of it actually ties into the word, and like you can see direct correlation, whereas like unless Lord of the Rings is by a Christian author, like you aren't going to see necessarily the word in it.
Yeah.
We as Christians, we can look at that and say, oh, I can see how this can represent this, but from an outsider perspective, you don't know that. But with Narnia, like that's straight, like we love that one quote. He goes, in your world, I have a different name, and you have to learn to call me by that name. And so it's like,
good.
We know who that is. And so
I also love the quote from the first book. He's not a tame lion. I forgot. Oh, I think it was a Nahum. It was just talking about how God is like, is like slow to anger, quick to, I don't remember the end of it, but he's slow to anger. Yeah. Basically. And that just reminded me, I literally heard that line come out. He's not a tame lion. Because if you see Aslan, he's probably one of the nicest characters ever to be written, but man, yeah, he ain't tame.
Win in battle, man.
Win in battle. So
he's fighting for us.
We got off topic. What's new?
Yeah. But anyway. I mean, it was all dry. This is all things over the fast.
Yeah. But
anyways.
Yeah. No, I think it's been a good fasting season. We still have some days left. We're drawing near the end.
We are.
So yay. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, anyways, y'all. That's it.
Yeah. Sorry, I yawned as she said that. And Nina's coughing. Nina's getting over being sick.
I swear I'm fine. It was like Monday morning. I wake up and, my week of my spring break. And I was sick. And I was like, are you kidding me? Well, and then, look at it as at least I didn't have to take off time from work.
Yep.
So, you know what? There's positives.
And you got to chillax.
And it's been honestly a great week. So,
yeah.
Counting it all joy.
Alrighty, y'all. Well, we appreciate you, and we will see you next time.
Yes, we will.
Bye.
All right. Peace and blessings.